All right, so for the sides to the pork tenderloin, we're gonna roast some fingerling potatoes. I got the 3 different varieties they had at Central Market, and they're the crazy shaped potatoes that you see. I got about 3 of each potato, as well as Brussels sprouts. We're gonna roast those with some rendered pancetta. If you can't find pancetta, then I recommend bacon, whatever type of bacon you desire. So with the fingerling potatoes, I always just cut them in half, and I always try to keep the cool shape. So you want to kind of cut with the cool shape, not against it. So then you have this, and then we're going to toss some oil, salt, pepper, and rosemary. I have some fresh rosemary from our garden that we are going to chop very fine. And we're going to toss in here, have some oil, pinch of salt, and I always use fresh cracked pepper. That way you get the best tasting pepper, and toss it and throw it on a sheet pan. Throw it in the oven. We're gonna roast it at about 350 degrees until they're done. I usually use either like a toothpick or a fork to kind of test it. I think it'll be about 30 to 45 minutes before the potatoes are done at that size. So for the Brussels sprouts, we're gonna use pancetta. Now pancetta is pork belly that's rolled up, tied, and been cured. If you don't have the access to pancetta, definitely go with bacon. Now, how I'm gonna chop it up, I'm gonna cut it in half like this, stand them upright. Now I had my butcher cut it about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. And I'm gonna cut them in half. I'm gonna do about 1/4 inch strips, and I'm gonna render it. Rendering it is going to get rid of the fat, and it's gonna get really crispy. And so once you're at these strips, you'll kind of cut them into what we call lardon pieces, but that's just thicker cuts of bacon usually, but this is gonna be pancetta. So we have these strips of bacon. I have a pan on low heat right next to me. So this is gonna be your strip. This is gonna be your piece of lardon. I'm gonna slowly put it in here, and I'm gonna render it. Now the rendering is going to take about 30 minutes, so don't be impatient. You want it low and slow because you don't wanna burn the product. Now if you were wondering how I was able to kind of chop the pancetta without my cutting board sliding and everything like that, I always recommend a wet piece of paper towel underneath. That will, if you didn't have the wet paper towel, you're gonna be cutting and the cutting board's gonna go like that. Once you have the wet paper towel, it's a lot safer to use, and you'll have all 10 digits after you're done cooking. So now for the Brussels sprouts. For the Brussels, I always take the very tips off, and you'll get some extra leaves, as you can see. Then I'll cut them in half. So, cut them in half, throw that in the bowl. And the same type of recipe. I'm a simple guy when it comes to seasoning. I like to do usually oil, salt, pepper, and garlic. With this recipe, the pancetta is gonna add that nice fatty flavor to the dish. Like I said, you can substitute bacon instead of pancetta. And so we'll do a little oil, a little salt, some fresh cracked pepper. You'll toss in the pancetta, and then you'll bake that as well at 350 for about 20 minutes.